Maybe. Oh, actually, we've got the files. Maybe I'm meant to be using them. Native of Saudi Arabia, intensely interested in medieval artifacts. Particularly of the precious nature. Why was he... Okay, maybe if I search for Travis. Nothing on file. Let's look at... Oh! What if he bought a ticket separately? It wasn't attached to the expedition. After reading an article in the Times, Holmes hurries Watson into a carriage, believing that time is of the essence. They head over to the shipping company.
Here is a passenger list you requested, sir.
Oh, Clarissa went.
Here is a passenger list you requested, sir.
My handwriting's rubbish. Maybe we shouldn't... Well, let's talk to this Urubaru fellow. This may eliminate a possible suspect and allow us just to go, it was Travis! The good doctor receives a telegram summoning him to the home of one of his patients. Holmes hails a carriage and proceeds to Mr. Urubaru's home in hopes of a clue or two.
If this is an inconvenient time, perhaps I could come back, Mr. Urubaru.
I wouldn't hear of it. Just a bit of a hangover. I've weathered plenty worse than this.
I'm investigating the death of Andrew Weatherby. You were on the ship with him out of Cairo. Did you happen to make his acquaintance?
Weatherby, a most tedious fellow.
So tedious, one might want to do him in.
Don't be preposterous. In my condition, I couldn't have done anything of the sort.
What condition was that?
And I thought you were a great detective. The first night out, a few of us threw a bit of a bash that went on until we docked in London.
Did Mrs. Weatherby attend this particular...
Bash?
She was the guest of honor, you might say.
That's the thing, is I'd like to ask her about that, but I assume we've already... Oh, these names. Assume we've already would have mentioned that. This is the thing, is I'm fairly sure that we've already kind of got everything we can get. I don't think there's anything else to get. This is where I'd like to have a little thing from the judge with questions, because then you know what you're missing. Now Farmy's dead. I'm not entirely sure that's how that fits in. Because I don't think it's... Oh dear. Well, that's slightly terrifying. Did I lose points for the... Ah, because these are dead. These were actually dead ends. So I lost 20 points for those. Alas. Yes, there doesn't seem to be many other options, unfortunately. Who was O'Brien? Oh, I was thinking of visiting him, wasn't I? Let's go and visit O'Brien. Detectives decide to stroll to the Office of Records Department as Watson insists the fresh air will do the investigation good. Holmes is not so sure, but humours the good doctor.
Well, Holmes, it appears we're out of luck. The clerk told me that O'Brien is off on holiday.
Nothing. So he doesn't give us any information. Actually, Shinwell may not be a terrible thing. Now we've got Farmy dead. Because these all four... I don't think the 4 deaths are all connected, is part of the problem, though. Who's Quentin Hogg? Actually, Quentin Hogg may be better. Crime reporter, ex-inspector. Holmes dispatches Watson to check on leads. Elsewhere, he himself hoofs over to the Police Gazette to speak with Quentin Hogg. Since the reporter loves nothing more than a one-sided conversation, Holmes fears a long afternoon ahead.
Now, the thing what does strike me as odd is the passenger list of the Eastern Empress. Now, I'm not saying it has anything to do with the mummy murders, mind you, but it was a bit out of the ordinary.
What was Hogg?
Akram Farmy, for starters. He's a well-known importer, he is. For a price, a considerable price by all accounts, he can acquire whatever one's heart desires, be it jewels, art objects, or even wild animals, if that's what you fancy. I'd say he was on board that ship to transport something very valuable.
The presence of one high-powered importer on a London-bound vessel is hardly reason for suspicion.
Right, oh. But Abdullah al-Saad was also on board.
Oh, yes. The well-known agent for the Sultan of the Ottoman Empire.
You never miss a trick, do you, Holmes? Well, whatever it was what Fahmy was carrying, I'd say it was something those Turks wanted to get their hands on.
That's where I cut my brain then goes, okay, so they want to kill Fahmy to get the item, and they're killing off the archaeologists just to hide it. But then Fahmy's killed in a different way. I wonder if there's a way of getting to the Ottoman. Is there like a Ottoman embassy? No. Pettigrew's name has come up a few times, but I'm not entirely sure if that's going to be relevant. We'll visit Porky Shinwell, I think. He's the underworld informant, I think. Quick carriage ride takes Holmes to the Raven and Rat Inn. Before stepping inside, the consulting detective is nearly flattened by an intoxicated patron stumbling from the inn.
There was a couple of blokes in here just a fortnight ago what mentioned the Eastern Empress. Never seen 'em before, haven't seen 'em since. One was a swarthy fellow, Arab unless I miss my guess. The other was an old English gent. I overheard 'em say something about a bird and later caught the name of the ship. Hope that helps you. Care for a drink, yeah?
So a bird. Eastern Empress. And so it was, yeah, an Arab plus an Englishman. That makes me think that Travis and Al-Saud are working together. Possibly. Lloyd's Shipping Register. I don't know if that's going to have any relevant information, is the problem. Let's go anyway. What could possibly go wrong? Isn't one shipping company like the next? Watson asks Holmes. After a 10-minute explanation, Watson admits he stands corrected and follows the detective out of the door. Okay.
This seemed to be a dead end. No one had any information that could help us solve this case.
That's the thing. I wasn't sure if that would be a further information or another shipping company. Now, this is a company. This is shipping register. So I thought maybe that would have some registry information that would be useful. Reuters Telegram. Let's look at further newspapers. Maybe there's something else in here about any of our fellows' marriages. Frederick Henry Cox, Miller, William Wellington Cooper, Lyons murdered in Hyde Park. Having agonized on what it takes to have you print one of my many critical missives, I've changed my tax to see how much I love everything, even the Times. An inquest was held yesterday on the body of William Aspinwall, who was shot by John Rowe. His stepson near North Shields. The evidence was that Rowe went to Aspinwall's house and demanded some money. Barry O'Neill, lion tamer for Roy Slade's Wild African Extravaganza. Various disappearances. At the London University College on Wednesday afternoon, before an appreciative audience, Dr. Ebenezer Turnbull delivered a lecture which dealt with the history of excavations and the method by which they may most profitably be conducted. Dr. Turnbull and archaeologists James Windibank and Andrew Weatherby are embarking this week on a new Egyptian expedition, excavating Katabet's tomb at the head of the Valley of the Kings near Karnak and Luxor. Saturday's lecture was illustrated by photographs thrown on the screen by the electric light, which showed vividly and distinctly not only the work done at its various stages, but the modus operandi, the conditions under which work of this character must be carried out, and the instruments necessary for the purpose, and enabled those present to realize that, in classical study as in the sciences, there is an ample field of experiment, and discovery open to the individual. Dr. Turnbull prefaced his lecture by an explanation of these real objects of the real object of the excavations. In these days, whatever might be given the first stimulus to such efforts, the primary motive was certainly not to find and keep treasure, any more than it was the aim of the astronomer to possess a star. The modern archaeologist was as little to be confounded with the treasure seeker as the mineralogist was with the gold miner. His aim must be to restore to life the monuments of bygone times, to bring vividly before us the various phases of ancient societies, whether civilized or uncivilized. Various law stuff, mysterious death. Shortly after 9 o'clock this morning, the body of Stephen Lyons was found lying in St George's Road, Southwark. A short time previously, the deceased, a first officer for Aberdeen Shipping, was seen being led in the direction where the body was found by two women and a man. The body had been robbed, even 2 gold earrings which the man had been observed to have been wearing. 2 women of ill fame and a man described as a labourer, but known to be an associate of bad character, had been taken into custody on suspicion of having caused the sailor's death. Final one. Maybe there's something in the February paper. Though I don't think so. Live ostriches. A sudden gale on the Isle of Man blew off the roof of a stone church yesterday and would have crushed the pastor's house, but was blocked by a tree which had fallen earlier. No injuries. Trying to see if I can find these names. Queen Anne statue. Murder in Bloomsbury. Mr. Oswald Mason, chief accountant of the Bank of England, is dead. I feel I must write to formally register my outrage at the irresponsible handling by a paper of my recent discovery. Your reporter's insinuation that I lack the credential to unearth such antiquities is an utter affront. For your information, I am a world-renowned authority in my field, especially Egyptian studies. Your reporter obviously has no appreciation for the significance of such a finding. Ooh. I wonder who that is. Okay, so we should probably investigate the Times then. It's possible that would be the... Let's go and visit the Times newspapers. They may tell us who wrote those articles, and if it's Travis, don't care what the judge says. Watson hails a carriage, and he and Holmes proceed to the offices of the London Times. Surely Henry, as the editor of the Times, would have some interesting news regarding this case.
It's quite amusing, all this hoopla over a mummy's curse, I must say. Not so amusing, of course, the murder of 3 Englishmen.
Have any of your reporters uncovered anything new?
Actually, I've been in Paris the past several weeks. Just returned to London on Tuesday. I've had no involvement with the writing of any of these articles. I believe they are all the work of Philip Travis. He's one of our young reporters. For a short time, he was the Egyptian correspondent.
Was he sacked?
No. He returned to London just a few days ago. I gather he was reassigned to cover the case from here because he had some familiarity with the murder in Egypt.
Do you know Travis?
No, never actually met the chap, although I hear he's a bit of an odd duck.
Thanks for your help, Henry.
Anytime. Let me know when you catch the mummy. That's one scoop I'd like to get.
Why did that begin again? Let's listen.
It's quite amusing, all this hoopla over a mummy's curse, I must say. Not so amusing, of course, the murder of 3 Englishmen.
Have any of your reporters uncovered anything new?
Actually, I've been in Paris the past several weeks. Just returned to London on Tuesday. I've had no involvement with the writing of any of these articles. I believe they are all the work of Philip Travis. He's one of our young reporters. For a short time, he was the Egyptian correspondent.
Was he sacked?
Yes, so he's written the articles about the curse. It's Travis. That's it. It's Travis. Can I go to the judge again and just say it's Travis? 'Cause it's Travis. Believing they have solved the case.
Hear ye, hear ye. The Queen's Court now stands in order.
Right.
Mr. Holmes, I understand you've been looking into the mummy murders.
Yes, my lord.
Tell me then, who was Ebenezer Turnbull's murderer?
Fairly sure it's Travis.
And what makes you so certain? What was Travis' motive for killing Turnbull?
Oh dear. Turnbull publicly lambasted Travis for questioning the doctor's credentials. Okay.
And what of Andrew Weatherby? who murdered him?
I think that was Travis as well.
So, you say Travis killed Turnbull and Weatherby?
Yes, I believe he did, my lord.
But what was his motive to kill Weatherby, Mr. Holmes?
Travis was angry that Weatherby was chosen for the expedition instead of himself.
Ah, revenge. The oldest motive in the book. Now, Mr. Holmes, who killed James Windibank?
I think that was also Travis, although part of me is now doubting it. He'll probably turn me back and say you're wrong.
This Travis seems to be quite a busy fellow. What made him kill James Windibank?
Windibank didn't choose him for the expedition.
Well, you've done an admirable job in resolving this mystery. I'd say you're on a par with just about any other armchair detective out there. I would suggest, however, that you rethink this case again, thereby improving your sleuthing skills.
What, did I get it wrong, or did I get it right?
We must be slipping, my dear Holmes. But in any event, I'm breathing easier. At least we got our men.
Yeah, so I got 270, he got 35. I think part of the problem is I could have answered that a lot earlier, but he wouldn't let me for whatever reason. I wouldn't have known exactly why he'd rejected it. But yeah, I'm still slightly frustrated by that. The game's just turning around and going, no, you can't answer yet. No, bad. I mean, it doesn't matter that you... it helps if you get the motive completely correct, of course, but Holmes' solution. What did he do?
Well, Watson, I believe this case is solved. And for your information, it was not the mummy.
Come, come, Holmes. I never thought for a moment it was the mummy.
Of course not, Watson. However, the murderer and the mummy did have one thing in common.
What's that?
They both were the only ones present at the time of the murders, except, of course, the victims.
You state the obvious, Holmes.
Ah, but it is seeing the obvious that is important. First, I saw no reason to assume that we were dealing with more than one murderer. Secondly, the locations of the murders limited the number of suspects.
Limited them? The first murder was in Egypt, the second on ship in the middle of the sea, and the third in London. You call the entire populations of London and Egypt a limited number of suspects?
No,
ship.
Watson. We had to find someone who was in Egypt for the first murder, on the ship for the second, and in London for the third.
Oh, but of course.
According to the newspapers, the Eastern Empress was in Bombay at the time of Ebenezer Turnbull's murder, so that eliminated the ship's crew as suspects. Thus, I needed the list of passengers who boarded the ship at Cairo. It was our visit to Jardine, Mason and Company that provided our first critical clue. From it, I learned that Philip Travis was a passenger. I then learned that Travis was the chap who reported on the first murder. He became one suspect, but I had no motive. Clarissa Weatherby, who was also at the scene of the murder in Cairo, was another possible suspect, since she appears to have had a bit of a dalliance with Mr. Uruburu there on the high seas. So I had found her motive for the murder of Weatherby, but not a motive for the murder of the others.
Then whom did you eliminate?
Mrs. Weatherby. Her hands were not strong enough even to open a jar of English toffee, let alone strangle a grown man.
And what of Travis's motive?
It seems that Travis was a student in the Egyptology department at London University and had studied under James Windibank. He wanted very badly to be chosen as a member of the expedition, but Windibank turned him down. Instead, Weatherby was chosen and Travis was furious. So there you have the motive for two of the murders.
And what of his motive for the murder of Turnbull?
Evidently, Travis had written a vicious article questioning Dr. Turnbull's credentials to lead the expedition. Turnbull's response was quite harsh, probably powerful enough to drive an odd duck like Travis to murder.
Very impressive, Holmes.
Elementary, my dear Watson.
Stop saying that. He never said that. So, yes. So apparently he picked up information a bit faster than I did. He noted Philip Travis was on the ship, but we already knew that. Yeah, that seems like really random bits of evidence just to go, aha! We have evidence. We picked up this evidence from this thing. Well, I picked it up from other places, and yes, I got there in the end. That's a terrifying score. Like, what is it? 2 times his score goes to 70, so 8 times his score. Wow, I did really badly. So yeah, I've got another 2 of these cases, so if you want me to do those, please comment. If you like my idea of streaming one of the cases from the board games, or maybe one of the other 2 of these, and we can all kind of work together and see how well we do together, yeah, please comment if you think that'd be a good idea. Who knows? So yes. Thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks for watching.